Bangkok Assassins begins by showing a boy named Pong, often yelled at by his mother. Pong, who felt sad, rushed out of the house and sat alone on the side of the road, not far from his house. Not long after, a car stopped near him. A man got out of the car and approached Pong. With the lure of giving him a toy, the man takes him away from there and kidnaps him. The man was part of a criminal syndicate that often kidnapped children on the streets to become their accomplices in committing crimes. The kidnappers beat Pong and took him into custody. When he finally woke up, a battered-faced Pong looked around and saw several children who had suffered the same fate as him, kidnapped and abused by the criminal syndicate. Not only molesting, the kidnappers even deliberately disabled the children for a specific purpose. A boy named Na was hit with a blunt object on the head, so he suffered a concussion and became an idiot. Meanwhile, a boy named Ka, who stood beside him, was made deaf by the kidnappers by destroying his eardrums. Seeing what the kidnappers had done to his two friends, a boy named Chi looked at them with glaring eyes, which irritated the kidnappers and made him blind by stabbing his eyes. On the other hand, Pong, who saw the cruelty, immediately screamed and asked for help through the gap in the window, hoping that someone would hear and help him. However, Pong's screams caught the attention of the kidnappers, so one of them came to him. The man told Pong he would make him speechless by cutting off his tongue. Feeling no guilt or pity, the kidnappers abuse the children they kidnap and exploit them for personal gain. Pong and his friends are forced to become beggars, and with their handicapped condition, the kidnappers hope to earn more money because people will indeed feel more sorry for them. When Pong and his friends were making money by begging for mercy from others on the side of the road, an old man approached them to ask something. However, Chi told him they were all being watched by a gang of kidnappers who were always watching them. Although Chi couldn't see the kidnappers across the street, he didn't want to risk endangering himself or his friends, as they had all been warned not to talk to anyone else. After returning to the warehouse where the kidnappers kept them, Chi was asked about his conversation with the old man this afternoon. Chi said he didn't say anything to the old man. However, they didn't believe his words and then abused him, even trying to make him mute by cutting off his tongue. Even though he can't hear anything, Ka rushes to help Chi by hitting his ukulele at one of the kidnappers. However, he is nothing compared to a gang of ruthless kidnappers who love to exploit minors. When they were about to cut off Chi's tongue, suddenly, the old man appeared there with his daughter, Korya. The old man turned out to be a kung fu master, so he could easily thwart the actions of those who wanted to cut off Chi's tongue. He then asked the kidnappers to release Chi and his friends and strongly condemned their actions, who always tortured and exploited children. However, the leader of the kidnapping gang, Simo, ignored the master's warning and then ordered his men to kill him. Even alone, the kung fu master can easily defeat Simo and all his henchmen, so they all choose to run away rather than die. After that, the kung fu master decides to take Chi, Ka, Na, and Pong to his place, raise them together with Korya, and teach them martial arts. 15 years later, Korya has grown into a beautiful girl, even though she often looks tomboyish. Korya, who likes to sing rap and hip-hop, turns out to have a special ability, namely being able to jump very high. While auditioning to become a vocalist, Korya is asked to touch a lamp above the ceiling, which is very difficult to reach, even using stairs. The judges asked her to do that because they wanted to get rid of her from the audition. Unexpectedly, Korya was able to touch the lamp by jumping very high. However, the judges finally agreed not to pass her because she broke the lamp instead. Elsewhere, Pong, who now works as a waiter at a hotel, is seen entering a hotel room, where he then kills the man who rented the room, who is none other than the boss of a child trafficking syndicate. With his current fighting ability, Pong could easily kill him with just a chopstick. Meanwhile, Chi is seen going to a place to look for Simo, the boss of the kidnapping gang who previously kidnapped and abused him and his friends. Despite being blind, Chi has been training his other senses for years, so he can know the whereabouts of people around him just by feeling or listening to their movements. He then asked a group of thugs who were in that place about Simo, but instead, they became irritated with Chi and chased him away. Chi's insistence made them even more irritated, and they attacked him. However, Chi was able to fend off the attack and took down one of the thugs by punching his nerve points. When another thug was about to shoot Chi, suddenly the man's body bounced after Ka, who had just arrived there, threw the man's body with his strength. Chi and Ka finally managed to defeat the gang of thugs, although they did not get any information about Simo's location and his henchmen. Ka then suggests Chi end all this because revenge will not bring good to anyone. However, Chi still insists on taking revenge on Simo and his gang, who kidnapped him and made him blind for life. While the rest of his friends have quite great abilities in martial arts, not so with Na, who became an idiot after the kidnappers hit his head. Na, who can't do anything right, spends his time helping the master at the temple and doing light work like sweeping or welcoming guests who have needs with the master. One day, an old man named Mo told the master about a group of assassins who committed murder using just a chopstick. He assumed that the assassin group was the master's subordinates because Pong and his friends were known to have quite great fighting skills. However, the master confirmed that the assassin group was not his subordinates. After Mo left, Na then asked the master to teach martial arts so that he too could be as good as his friends. However, he didn't respond to Na and then just left. Elsewhere, Ka confronts Pong about his feelings for Korya because he thinks that Pong likes her. Pong then replied that it was none of Ka's business and asked him not to interfere in his business. Ka then tells him that he will not stay silent if someone hurts Korya, even if it is his own friend. Because of women's affairs, Ka and Pong instead become at odds with each other and get into fights. One day, Ka meets Korya at a cafe, where she then expresses her sadness about Pong, who turns out to love a woman named BB. During this time, Korya turns out to like Pong. That's why Ka tries to warn Pong not to play with women's feelings, especially Korya, because it turns out that he really likes her. Elsewhere, the master was visited by a group of people who turned out to be the assassins Mo talked about earlier. They then attacked him using chopsticks, which became their mainstay weapon. Seeing the master being beaten, Na then rushed to help him as best he could. However, Na, who does not have any self-defense skills, is then seriously injured due to repeated fatal attacks. At the same time, Ka and Chi then pick up Korya and her friend, and they then rush to the temple to meet the master. Arriving there, they were surprised by Na, who had been seriously injured by the attack. Even though the master managed to defeat the assassins, he seemed to have a hard time helping Na, so he then ordered Ka and the others to take Na to an underground cave to treat him. The master says that there is only one way to save Na's life, but that way has very big consequences. Namely, Na will lose all his memories and forget them. Hearing that, Korya and the others looked confused, but they finally agree to save Na, even though he will never remember them back. The master then had Ka and the others stand guard at the cave entrance while he performed a healing technique using his own energy to treat Na. When she was standing guard alone at the cave entrance because Ka and Korya were away for a while, a masked man was seen sneaking into the cave. The masked man seemed to be using a certain technique, so Chi couldn't feel his movements. At the same time, Ka and Korya finally returned there and heard the master's scream from inside the cave. Chi and the others rushed into the cave, where they discovered that the masked man had killed their master. They then engage in a fight against the masked man, assisted by Pong, who had just arrived there. After going through a fierce battle, the masked man finally managed to escape. Shortly afterward, Ka and the others buried their master on a hill, where they seemed deeply saddened by the death of their teacher, who had been very meritorious in their lives. Pong and Ka get into a heated argument and blame each other for everything that happened. Not long after, Pong received a call from his girlfriend, BB, who asked him to come to her house immediately. He then obeyed her request and left from there, leaving his friends. Arriving at BB's house, how surprised Pong was when he found out that BB's mother turned out to be his mother, whom he had never met again. However, his mother doesn't seem to recognize him, and Pong chooses to keep his identity a secret for the time being. Elsewhere, Chi and Ka are seen visiting an old man in search of medicine to cure Na. Getting a clue about the dragon's tears that can cure any disease, they then ask the old man about the dragon's tears. Even though they got into a fight, the old man finally revealed that the dragon's tears actually came from Korya's heart, so the only way to get the dragon's tears was to kill her. Not wanting to sacrifice Korya, Chi and Ka became frustrated until Na finally died. The next day, Pong, who managed to get information about Simo and his gang, then told Chi and Ka, and together, they headed to the hideout of Simo and his gang to take revenge. Simo and his gang are still abducting children and molesting them, just as they did Chi and his friends a few years ago. With their martial arts skills, Pong and the others managed to defeat Simo's men and free the children who were kidnapped. Chi and Pong then confront Simo and his henchmen who once tortured them and do not hesitate to kill them. Chi then asked Ka to kill one of Simo's henchmen who had destroyed Ka's eardrums. But Ka refuses because all this time, he never intended to take revenge on Simo and his gang and pursued them only to save the children who were kidnapped. Chi looks disappointed to hear Ka's words and then kills the henchman. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Korya, who is alone, is ambushed by a group of masked men who have learned about the dragon's tears. They brought along Na's intact body to complete Korya's heart-taking ritual so that they could gain the power of the dragon's tears. Just as they were about to take Na and Korya's hearts, Chi and the others finally arrived there to stop them. Chi, Ka, and Pong managed to defeat a group of masked men quite easily. However, they soon became overwhelmed when the leader of the group of masked men, a man named Pascal, arrived there and showed martial skills that could surpass even their masters. Chi and his friends were easily defeated by Pascal. When they have lost their strength, Pascal is ready to use his full power to eliminate them all once and for all. But then, they are surprised by Na, who comes back to life, and then rises to save his friends. Unexpectedly, Na turns out to have superpowers that can easily defeat Pascal with just one attack until he is killed. Sometime later, Na, who has now fully recovered, doesn't remember anything, including about his friends. Even so, he has a kind and gentle heart, where he will not allow evil to run rampant and does his best to save people as much as possible. Korya gives something to Na, hoping to bring back his memories of her. The film ends with Pong revealing to his mother that he is her son who had disappeared after being kidnapped by a criminal syndicate. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that sometimes people who care and understand us the most are not our families but people who have no blood relation with us. Even so, we connect with them through the suffering and pain we have shared and help each other. So, respect them and never forget their kindness.